Today in the garage and on the 450, controversy as we install not a Vortex. You're not installing a Vortex? Why are you not installing a Vortex? It's clearly superior. Why would you touch anything other than a Vortex? I know that's what you're probably yelling at the screen right now, but I'm not. I'm instead putting in a JD Jetting Power Surge fuel controller. I have read the many comments, the many forum posts, the many threads everywhere that Vortex ECUs are superior. It's completely plug and play and it solves everything. I understand. I heard, I read, I saw. So why JD Jetting and not Vortex? There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, price. Vortex ECUs are $750 and even more if you want to get the map switch for the handlebars. That's a ridiculously high price for an ECU or for tuning purposes, and I just don't want to pay that much. Number two is availability. Vortex ECUs are pretty hard to come by right now, and pretty much every place that sells them is on back order and you're just putting yourself on a wait list at this point. I was able to find a JD Jetting fuel controller readily available and at a fraction of the price. And finally, number three, quite honestly, I'm not doing that much to this bike with the exhaust and with the intake. I'm gonna keep it fairly stock. There's a few things I wanna try to do, but we'll see in the future. For right now, the JD Jetting kit is basically just gonna help out the stock configuration. And ultimately, I just wanna get a little bit more fuel in certain parts of the rev range, so that way, particularly with idle and low speed, that it's not as jerky and it has a little bit more of a linear response than what we see from the factory with these bikes. Now into installation, it should be pretty straightforward. It's plug and play for the most part, just this one little connection, and it taps into the fuel injection system right under the tank. There's also a ground wire here, but that's pretty much it. And I think ultimately the biggest hurdle is just going to be getting access to where we need to plug this in. So everything here needs to get off, seat needs to get off, plastics needs to get off, and the tank needs to be moved out of the way because everything's right in the bowels there. And then we need to find a place to mount this. It recommends right underneath this number plate here, and that's probably what I'm going to do, either that or maybe under the seat. There might be some room there. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go on. So let's get to unbolting everything here. I love editing. So we got the seat and all the plastics removed. We got the tank not exactly removed, but at least up and out of the way. On the other side there, we have access to the plug, the wire that we need to tap into. So really all we need is just enough space to unplug and then plug back in. So let's take a look at the other side to see what we're working with. So we got the tank kind of pushed up and outside of the frame just so we can get our fingers just in that little crack right there. And it's so dark in there it's hard to see, but right there, see that thing? That is the plug. And that goes to the fuel injection system, and basically all we need to do is just unplug that and then plug it in to our leads right here.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't.
So the next thing we got to do is fish this in there to get it prepped so we can plug this in between those two. So one's going to go to the fuel injector and then one's going to go to the wiring harness. However, this whole system is going to be mounted on this side of the bike. So what I want to do first is fish these connections in from the other side here, so that way we can route everything and put this, wherever we need to put it. So we'll get those situated first, and then we'll start to make sure that we can reach in there and actually get things. All right, so that wasn't as bad as I thought. I actually made some more space here, so I was able to get the tank a little further away. Anyway, you can see down there where the red and white wires are, that's the plug for the power commander. And then down there, probably hard to see if at all right now, is the other side of the connection, plugging back into the wiring harness. And then we have all the wires here fed up and put in between here in the ECU, so it's fed to the other side. All right, so now that we got the connections done down there, we put the tank back just to make sure everything still clears. I haven't mounted it up yet, it's just sitting where it's supposed to. I have everything very loosely fitted just to make sure if this is not working, then I can easily take stuff off. I don't have to go through the trouble of taking everything off again. So we got the ground wire here. That was the last step for the wiring, just to make sure this has ground. So that's good. Now we will turn on the ignition here and see what happens. All right, we got light. Now let's turn on the bike. Should go through a sweep of the LEDs. There's 8 of them right here. So when I turn on the ignition, if it's put in correctly, it should whoop, whoop. All Alright, well that was pretty easy. Everything's connected, obviously, it's running, so it's getting a signal to the fuel injector, so that's a good sign. Now all that we gotta do, we'll turn that off. Now all we gotta do is get this mounted and route the wiring, then we can actually get into programming this thing. Alright, we're all routed, and this is not yet mounted, there's some glue drying, but while the glue dries, we might as well go ahead and program. There's 6 settings that you have to set, and each one of those has a number, 1 through 8, as indicated here with 8 LEDs. The way that this is set up is 3 is no change whatsoever. So anything lower than that, it's gonna be leaner. Anything higher than that, it's gonna be richer. So every number here is gonna be 3 or higher. So my goal here with a completely stock setup currently is going to be a gradual increase of the fuel with the exception of idle. So idle is the big one because that's where everyone experiences that choppy throttle. So that one is going to be on the higher side. So let's go to programming it. I got to turn the bike on because this thing does have to have the bike running in order to have power going to it. So it's going to be a little bit loud, hence why I'm giving you all this explanation right now.
Tomorrow.
Welcome to tomorrow. I was just going to ride around and just kind of give my overall thoughts and feelings about it because it's kind of hard to actually show the improvements other than just saying it feels different, which it does. And after thinking about it for a second, I thought, you know what? This is mostly tackling idle and low speed stuff, so why not demonstrate that, or try to at least, with a slow race? So for those that aren't familiar or have not been to a bike show, a slow race is basically going from point A to B, which I have marked with these cones here, as slowly as possible. Usually you do this head to head, and whoever gets past the finish line last wins. And if you put your feet down at any point, you lose, you're out. So in this case, I'm going to compete against myself in that we'll run it first with the settings that I currently have in it, so giving the idle and the low speed more fuel, and then I'm going to revert it back to factory settings and then do it over again. I'll put a timer somewhere on the screen and then we'll see just how much better it is. So theoretically I should have a longer time from A to B with my JD jetting tune-up rather than the factory settings. So we're going to run it first with the JD jetting and also get my hand in at this. I don't remember the last time I've done a slow race, so I'm probably going to put my foot down. That wasn't the test. Alright, here we go. Foot up. I'm just coasting at this point. Ooh, that was close. It does feel a little better though from the initial clutch engagement. Did my foot cross? Okay. Let's try from the other side because I think the parking lot's actually sloped. Foot off. Maybe I'll stand. Ah! Thought I could hold that. Foot off. We're rolling. Now to do it all over again, but this time, factory settings. I didn't go ripping out the whole tuning system or anything like that. I just changed all the settings to 3, which are factory, so it's like it wasn't even there. All right, here we go. Foot's up. Whoa! That one was a little jumpy right there, but saved it. It's not as hard as I thought it would be. And back, opposite direction. Foot up. We're rolling. We're trying to like ease the clutch so I at least have some bite. Or not. I'm stationary. I saved it. Oh. Uh-oh. I actually didn't try to do that, I promise. Let's do that one again. Foot up. And rolling. Ooh. That felt a little harder to save right there. It felt like I was about to die. That's the only thing I can really think of the difference here. It's not that hard. The only difference I can think is just that it takes a little bit more twist of the wrist in order to get going again for it to not cut out. Oh, 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 oh! So, what are the results? I don't know. I'm still making this video. I haven't done the editing yet, but I will post them here or here. I don't know where I am in the frame, so I guess I gotta film this a couple ways. And look how shocking the difference is. JD jetting set is so much longer. Okay, that's one. They're about the same. So I guess this is pointless. And it turns out the factory settings were much slower than the JD jetting tune, so I guess I just wasted all my time and my money. Well, one of those scenarios happened, but I will tell you this. Feel-wise, it does seem like there's a big difference there, especially with the idle, kind of when you're rolling on and the clutch is just catching. It's much easier. You don't have to put in as much input on the throttle side of things with the JD jetting tune as opposed to the factory settings. When I was doing the factory run, it felt like I had to blip the throttle a lot more in order for it to catch without dying. I haven't really ridden this fully to its like full rev range to see what the changes are there, but I certainly will and will be making any changes to that if I see fit. But thanks for watching. I hope the results were something.